Welcome to Arrakis, the most dangerous planet in the universe.
So, the thing what I'd been waiting on before I started talking about Dune Awakening has happened. They've detailed their business model, or started to at least. There's some issues I want to talk about there, but this part is important because it is an MMO style affair, and as we all know, I'm sure the monetization schemes of those can range from respectful and generally pleasant and inoffensive to horrifically abusive and near violently consumer hostile in a way that makes me want to blow up the world. But now we know what they're aiming at, and it, on paper, sounds like a decent enough approach that won't be too sleazy and gross, although again, I have some problems. We're going to talk about it. But now I'm ready to give it a go at least. I feel confident enough about that, and feel confident enough to talk to you peeps about it, and not regret the tacit endorsement of this game later. And all of this is part of a new marketing push as they head towards opening pre-orders ahead of the actual launch, which happens in about 6 weeks' time. So expect the push behind this game to start accelerating. You're probably going to hear more and more about it in the coming weeks. Now, chances are decent I won't have to start this video by explaining what Dune is. If you clicked here, you probably, at the very least, know about the new movie trilogy with Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya and all that. How do you say Tim's name? Kevin! I'm drawing an absolute blank on how you pronounce his friggin' name. But one of the things I personally like about Dune is it's got a relatively unique and very interesting world-building framework, which is the largest reason why I'm pretty interested in a new game based around that. So I can feel part of that world, so I can play in that literal and figurative sandbox. Its world feels like a great fit for this style of game. And for the sake of getting into the meat of things a little bit faster here, I'm diving right into the stuff I want to talk about. But if you're only now discovering this game, I will plop down some extra info at the tail end of this video to better frame up what kind of game this is, so you can start thinking about whether or not it's for you. So, the meat. Earlier today we got a dev update with Joel Bylas, the creative director of the game.
Hi everybody. My name's Joel Bylas, and I'm the creative director on Dune Awakening.
And hey, did you hear that? A fellow Aussie. Bet you didn't expect that from a Norway-based game dev, did you? G'day, Joel. How's it going? So, what did we learn about the launch, the monetization, and the post-launch content is thus. Thank the maker, or, a franchise-appropriate saying, it will not be bloody early access. Which, if you're like me and do enjoy a sandbox survival crafty type game now and again, you'll know is a goddamn bane of the genre. Like, literally 90% of the damn things launch unfinished, broken, and buggy as hell, and call themselves early access instead of an unfinished game you're paying to beta test for us, you suckers. And it's pretty much a coin flip if that game ever actually gets finished. Now, none of that malarkey here. Dune is a fully functional, content-complete launch. So that's encouraging. We already know the price too, which was announced a little while back. $50 worth of American money. Well, if the American dollar has any worth by the time the game launches on the 21st of May, there's no guarantee of that. Now, is there, my American friends? You having fun? Oh, Blunty, don't talk about politics in your video game videos. Yeah, you don't know anything about Dune, do you? It's pretty much all politics, so just calm your ass down, all right? So while it is an MMO, it will not have a subscription. Also, welcome news. I'm not a huge fan of renting access to games I already paid for, and I really hate the FOMO-laden and shitification that comes with so-called optional subscription models, so forget that too. So, how do they keep making money to ensure the game's servers stay alive? Because obviously they cost money. And how do you pay for new content to be made? Because obviously an MMO dies if you don't squirt out new content at a fairly regular basis. Well, they're doing paid DLC, which they have not properly detailed yet. We don't know what this paid DLC even is. But if it's anything like what they did with Conan Exiles, another game from the same studio, and which is also a survival sandboxy style game, although while it is multiplayer, it is not a true MMO, I think it's a safe bet they'll probably do something very similar to that. Which means we're talking packs of content that include new styles of base building pieces, new player armor pieces, exclusive emotes, cosmetic outfits, paints and decals and whatnot for bases and vehicles, furniture and other housing decorations for base customization, that kind of thing. Given all the possible ways to monetize an MMO of this type, it's probably the least offensive, I think. The core game will continue to be expanded through free updates, promising new content, which probably just means new quests and such, new features, and further enhancements. Whatever that means. That's a really vague and nebulous concept, isn't it? Further enhancements. That could mean as little as, they fix bugs from time to time, or it could mean expanding and enhancing whole-ass base gameplay systems. Who knows? It's just a PR weasel word. It's just one more word to slap on as a bullet point that doesn't actually mean anything. It's just horse crap, and I won't stand for it. Further enhancements. Bugger off. There will also, though, be what they're calling optional paid DLCs. And that is where the description of those stop. Again, no clue what that entails at all. No idea what it is, no idea how optional it will actually feel to active players. All of that is still up in the air. But if you've been a gamer long enough to have seen that term bounced around for a long-ass while now, as I have, you've learned not to trust it, I'm sure. And the last MMO I actively played, which had an optional paid DLC expansion, that would be New World, well, that did not feel very bloody optional at all, despite reading that way on paper. The FOMO was very carefully crafted to enshitify the game unless you paid for it. So hey, Funcom, hey Joel, mate, Gobber, how about you get real bloody transparent about that stuff real quick? Now, I've never actually played Conan, but it too had an optional expansion called the Isle of Siptar. Any Conan players want to chime in on how optional that actually felt for regular players? Because I can see from its Steam reviews it was not what you'd call well received. But with Dune, they're promising that with every major free content update, they'll dump a new pile of DLC alongside it. I suspect this will take the form of the cosmetic stuff, new equipment, new base building stuff that we're talking about before, stuff that will be thematically matched to the new content. So like, for example, off the top of my head, maybe there's an update that includes a new storyline based around the Bene Gesserit. And so you can imagine the DLC will be a bunch of costumes based on like their ceremonial robes and whatnot, and Bene Gesserit themed base parts and furniture and decorations. Probably, that big chair with the box on it and whatnot. You can put that in your base. Maybe there'll even be a little emote where you can hold a needle to someone's neck. And, of bloody course, there'll be a season pass, for which you can prepay for all this content that you haven't seen and isn't finished yet. And of course, that season pass will very likely be some sort of comparative savings from buying them all individually once you can see what you're really paying for. Because that's how that crap works. Oh, and we also learned today that if you pay more for the game than the actual asking price, and we don't know this pay more price yet, but if you pay more, you get almost a week of early access, giving the squealing little pay pigs the chance for a massive head start above the rest of us. Joel tries to soften this horseshit in his little video by saying, oh, they're only doing it to soften the load on the servers at launch, and then on published launch day that they're going to put new servers up, so you don't have to play with the pay pigs. You can choose to avoid the pay pig servers with their significant head starts if you like. And we all know it's a little bit more complicated than that, isn't it? Because we've been through this before. It's still sleazy. So fuck you for that one, Joel. And look, Joel, I know it probably was some suit's decision, some bean-counting bastard. Not your decision. Not your sloppy ass with your uncombed hair on video and badly fitting merch shirt that they put you in so you will be wearing some branding. But hey, you're the public face here, telling us all of this and tacitly admitting that you couldn't stop the bean counters, the grey-faced suits, from doing this consumer hostile shit you know that we all fucking hate. So still, fuck you. And look, to the rest of you, yes, I know that's unfair, but, well, we need someone to scream at, don't we? It's just the way things work, isn't it? But that is the last of my actual complaints. Everything else seems pretty solid, and the stuff I'm complaining about is kind of potentially sleazy. not sort of outright horrifically sleazy, guaranteed miserable. So we're still sitting on the side of hope and enthusiasm here, all up. Don't get me wrong about that. In other stuff we learned today, it's an MMO, and as an MMO, it's not going to be much of a bugger to run compared to some other games we've seen launch recently with performance struggles, even on extremely high-end hardware. But MMOs need player bases to survive, which means you need a lot of people to be able to play the game, which means the game needs to be easy to run on common, mid, and even low-end gaming hardware. So they published a new specs sheet today too. So the game starts as being functional on hardware as low as the humble Intel A380 for, all 15 people who bought that thing. It'll also run on the nearly decade-old GTX 1060, extremely popular graphics card. You probably should have upgraded from that by now, but if you're still plopping along on it, it'll get the job done. And if you're on the AMD side of things, you'll need anything above the 5600 XT. So that's not too much to ask. And there is a benchmarking tool as well, so you can check your specific build and start fiddling with settings. And you've seen that benchmark running in the background of some of this video, actually. The benchmark tool also has the game's character creator built in, so you can save some time on launch day and get to playing quicker by pre-making your character in the benchmark and then importing it into the full game on launch. I love when games do that. I absolutely love when they put a character creator in their benchmarking tool that you can just squirt into the final game. It's so good. On the performance helping side of things, we've got the modern options. The game also supports NVIDIA's DLSS 4, including the brand new multi-frame gen stuff. I think it's one of the first games to actually launch with that. It's got AMD's latest FSR stuff here too, scaling and frame gen. It's got Intel's XeSS 2 as well. Always nice to have as many options as possible when it comes to that kind of stuff. I'm not a huge fan of frame gen. You've heard me talking about quite frequently in the recent past, in the context of Monster Hunter, for example. But the upscaling stuff, that can be damn useful. That's a really good tool for squeezing out just a little extra performance without sacrificing too much of your look. Now, for those of you only now discovering that this game exists, as promised, here's a little more context for how it all works. Rise from survival to greatness, the Steam blurb tells us, and challenge the power of an Imperium in Dune Awakening. So, it's a multiplayer survival, base-building, crafty tree type game, something not too far from one of the studio's previous popular games I've mentioned earlier, Conan Exiles. Except this time, when we say multiplayer, we're talking massively multiplayer. It's an MMO with all the Dune mainstays of sandworms and ornithopters and still suits and whatnot. And of course, the spice. And it is not actually directly tied to the new movies. Its gimmick to free itself from that structure, that restriction, is that it's basically an alternative timeline where one of the core differences is Paul Atreides, the character Timothy Chalamet, the character Tim plays in the new movies, who is kind of a super key figure in the plot. Well, he doesn't exist. He wasn't born. Lady Jessica gave birth to a girl instead. The Fremen have vanished. No one knows why. And Big Man Atreides survived the attempt on his life and is now at war with the Harkonnen over control of Arrakis and the precious spice. And you, the player character, start your journey by being sent on a mission to figure out what the bloody hell happened to the Fremen. And that means exploring and indeed surviving the deserts of Arrakis. And that's where the survival crafty base building stuff is framed up. You're kind of literally just dumped in the desert and told to figure things out. And while at its core this all seems like a relatively familiar type of sandbox survival game with your base building and your craftable vehicles and your upgradable tools and all that sort of stuff, a little bit of RPG thrown in, it is from the ground up an MMO, as we've been talking about. So along with that, its core gameplay includes large-scale multiplayer systems in place to support and indeed encourage social gameplay, both PvP competitive stuff and, of far more interest to me personally, PvE collaborative stuff. And some of the wording they've used does seem to indicate that someone who enjoys a mostly solo experience, even in MMOs, should be able to enjoy much of the content. That should be fine. But they do claim that you'll be sharing the spaces you play in with, quote-unquote, hundreds of other players. Which remains to be seen what that actually feels like in practice, and if it really is actually hundreds of players literally on the same map, in the same spaces as you, or if it's just a couple of dozen players splintered into shared instances or meshed servers or whatnot. I took a quick look to see if I could figure that out, but I found nothing solidly useful. It seems like the details on that stuff are still under playtester NDA. If you know better, please let me know in the down below. In any case, so long as PvP is largely or entirely optional, I remain very interested. And from what I understand, it is largely optional to do the PvP stuff, with only specific map zones flagged for PvP. So you have to choose to go into these areas where you'll be automatically flagged for PvP. And of course, these zones will be enticing because they will be filled with very valuable materials and whatnot. And it seems like even if you don't want to do the PvP stuff itself, if you are still part of a guild, there are ways to support the PvP stuff by doing PvE content. It's unclear what exactly they mean by that yet. I'm hoping it means more than just being a crafter and giving your guildmates some nice shoes or something, because that's not particularly enticing. Now, I don't always hate PvP in MMOs, so this one is just kind of a wait and see for me. It might be a really fun PvP experience, I don't know yet. But I do, more often than not, tend to avoid PvP in games like this, both in MMOs and survival sandboxy stuff, because nothing, in my experience, has turned a player base more toxic, more shitty, more faster than PvP shit in sandbox survival games, much less MMOs in general. And for you PvP likers out there, you apologists, don't pretend otherwise, you know it's true. Some people are more able to put up with that kind of toxicity or even take part in it and find fun in it. I'm not one of those people. I find it really, really, really off-putting. But again, we'll wait and see. It is encouraging, at least they seem to very much acknowledge that PvP is a turn-off for many, and they have been thinking about options for those who don't want to engage with it. So yeah, fingers crossed on that one. I imagine we'll hear more about it quite soon. So, hopefully you found this video useful, or at least interesting. I am Blunty, thank you as always to the patrons, and I will catch you next time. See you on the sands. I don't know, does Dune have any good catchphrases for sign-offs? Do the funny walk so the sandworm doesn't eat ya.